Hello everybody, and today we're opening the holy page of Masechet Menachot 89b. Our daf opens with a contradiction. A brayta teaches about mixing the various components of sacrifices. We learned that you can't mix the fats of different offerings because each one must be... Wait 1 second. Burn on its own. So too, you can't mix libation of wine that come with the offerings, since their quantities are tied to the animal sacrifice itself. However, the Gemara then challenges this idea, bringing proof from another part of the Braita, which permits mixing the flour and oil of different mincha meal offerings, which have already been kneaded together. The Gemara concludes that the two cases are different. The libation of wine from different animal sacrifices, like lambs and bulls, have different quantities and therefore cannot be mixed. However, the flour and oil from different mincha offerings, once they have been mixed into a single dough, can be treated as a single entity and therefore can be brought together. Gemara then turns to the subject of libations for a guilt offering of a leper, which is a unique kind of sacrifice. It raises the question: if the Kohen priest slaughters the animal with an improper intention, shlo lishma, does the accompanying meal offering and wine libation still need to be brought? Rabbi Yochanan says yes, because even with the improper intention, the animal retains its status as a guilt offering of a leper. The Gemara then challenges Rabbi Yochanan from a Mishnah which implies the opposite, but ultimately resolves the contradiction. So let's dive straight in. And one may mix together with the libation of an offering brought on the one day with those of the day before, if the meal offerings have the same ratio of oil to flour, but one may not mix together the libation of lambs with the libation of bulls or the libation of rams. So what's the footnote? It is never permitted to mix together the libation of offerings of different types of animals. However, one may mix together the libation of the offerings of the same type of animal. This applies to both the communal offerings and individual offerings. And to Rambam Sefer Road Hilchot Timidim Misofim 10:15. And you can see the Kesef Mishnah and Lechem Mishnah there. As the meal offerings have different ratios of oil to flour, and nevertheless, if one intermingled the flour and oil of these lamb offerings by themselves, if two or more meal offerings of different types of animal offerings were mixed together, after each meal offering had been independently intermingled, let's just read that again. If two or more meal offerings of different types of animal offerings were mixed together, after each meal offering had first been independently intermingled, they are fit to be brought on the altar. And that's from the Rambam Sefer Hilchot Timidim Misofim 10:17, the Kesef Mishnah and Lechem Mishnah there. On the flour and oil of these bull and ram offerings by themselves, and only when they were mixed together, then they remain fit to be sacrificed. If they were mixed together before the oil and of each offering were independently intermingled to form the meal offering, then they are disqualified. With regard to the animal offering that comes with the Omer meal offering, which is accompanied by another meal offering and a wine libation, even though the quantity of flour used in its meal offering is doubled, one uses twice the amount that is generally used for meal offerings that accompany the sacrifice of a lamb, which oil and wine libations were not doubled. Whether 3 log of oil and 3 log of wine were used, per the standard quantities used for a lamb. If an offering of a lamb is brought together on the same day as the waving of the Omer meal offering, it's accompanied by a meal offering and a wine libation. Although the quantity of flour used is double that which is generally used for meal offerings that accompany the sacrifice of a lamb, such that 2/10 of an ephah is used, the quantity of wine and oil used is the same as for any other lamb offering, i.e. a quarter hin of wine and a quarter hin of oil. This is according to the explanation of Rabbi Elazar. Rambam Sefer Vod Hilchot Maaser Kabbalah 2:5. The Gemara. The Mishnah states that different types of libations can be mixed together provided that the meal offerings have the same flour to oil ratio. And the Gemara raises a contradiction to this from a Braita discussing the verse, and he shall sacrifice from the peace offerings a fire to the Lord, the fat covering the innards, and all the fat that is on the innards, and the 2 kidneys with the fat that is on them, which is over the loins, and the diaphragm with the liver and with the kidneys he shall take away. And Aaron's sons shall burn it on the altar apart from the burnt offering which is on the wood that is on the fire. It is a fire of a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Leviticus 3:3-5. The direct object of the term "and they shall burn," i.e. the pronoun "it," is singular, despite referring to the many types of fats listed in the verse. It indicates that one may not mix fats of one offering with fats of a different offering. One may not mix fats of one offering with fats of a different offering. This halacha applies both to communal offerings and offerings of an individual. Rather, each offering should be sacrificed by itself. If they did become mixed, one should burn them all together. In accordance with the ruling of the Braita, as explained by Rabbi Yochanan, Rambam Sefer Vod Hilchot Maaseh Korbanot 10:16, but should burn the parts from each offering separately. Similarly, it follows that the libation accompanying different animal offerings should not be mixed together. Rabbi Yochanan said, the Mishnah stated only that if libations of different offerings are mixed together, one may still sacrifice them, but not that this is permitted to Abba Nisha. Accordingly, there is no contradiction between the Mishnah and the Braita. The Gemara first, if that is so, then when the Mishnah states in its first clause that and one may not mix together libation of lambs with libation of bulls and libation of rams, attention is not that even after the fact, if they are mixed together, they are also not valid. The Gemara challenges, but from the fact that the last clause teaches, if one intermingle the flour and oil of these lamb offerings by themselves, and the flour and oil of these bull and ram offerings by themselves, and only then they were mixed together, then they remain fit to be sacrificed, especially referring to the halacha after the fact, and it may be inferred from the first clause stated the halacha abba b'nisha. Rabbi said that this is what the Mishnah is saying. When different animal offerings are sacrificed, the wine libation may be mixed together abba b'nisha, but only if the fine flour and oil from the respective meat offerings were already mixed together, albeit improperly. The Gemara asks, and is it correct that one may not mix together the wine libation of different offerings of Anisha unless their flour and oil were already mixed? Is it taught in the continuation of the Braita just cited? In what case is the statement that one may not mix together parts of different offerings said? It is said only with regard to flour and oil. One may mix together the wine libation of different offerings. The implication is that this is the halacha even if the meal offerings had not been mixed together. Rather, Abai said that this is what the Mishnah is saying. The Mishnah does not specify whether referring to mixing together the wine based on the meal offering with different animal offering. Then the Gemara Abai explains when the entire Mishnah is referring specifically to mixing together the wine libations. Accordingly, even when the Mishnah states permitted to mix libation and together Abnicho, that is the halacha only concerning the wine libations, and even then only if the meal offerings share a similar ratio of flour to oil. If the meal offerings do not share a similar ratio, or even if they do but they had not been mixed together, then the wine libations may not be mixed together due to a rabbinic decree to ensure the people will not come to mix together the flour and oil of different meal offerings. With regard to offerings of similar types of animals, where the fine flour and oil from their respective meal offerings had been burned. Hecha de hukta shaltan b'shamnan. If the flour and oil of different meal offerings were mixed together, it is then permitted to mix together their wine libations. This is according to the explanation of Abai, Rambam Sefer Vod Hilchot Maaseh 10:18 on the altar. One may mix together the wine libation at B'nisha, and even where their fine flour and their oil have not been burned, if their fine flour and their oil have at least been mixed together, one may mix together the wine libations at B'nisha. But if the fine flour and oil had not been mixed together, then one may not mix the libations together. The reason is that if one does mix the libations, perhaps one will come to mix together the flour and oil at B'nisha, which is prohibited. The Mishnah teaches, with regard to the lamb offering that comes with the Omer meal offering, the quantity of flour used in this meal offering is doubled, i.e., one uses twice the amount that is generally used for meal offerings that accompany the sacrifice of a lamb, but the quantity of oil and wine are not doubled. The sages taught in the Braita, the verse states, with regard to the Omer meal offering, and its meal offering shall be 2/10. Leviticus 23:13. This verse teaches about the lamb that comes with the Omer that the size of this meal offering is doubled. One might have thought that just as its meal offering is doubled, so too its wine libation should be doubled. Instead of using a quarter hin, as is generally done for lambs, one should use a half hin. The counter of the verse states in its continuation, and its libations shall be of wine a quarter hin, Leviticus 23:13. One might have thought that it is only its wine libation that should not be doubled, as it is not intermingled with the flour of its meal offering. But its oil should be doubled, and is intermingled with the flour of its meal offering. The counter is the verse states, and its libation shall be of wine a quarter hin, which teaches that all of its libations shall be only a quarter hin, but no more. The Gemara elaborates on the final proof in the Braita. What is the biblical verse good derivation here. Rabbi Elazar says there's an ambiguity as to whether the possessive pronoun in the term and its libation is referring to the lamb offering or the meal offering, both of which are mentioned previously in the verse. This is due to a disparity between the word the Hebrew word for the term is written and the way it is vocalized. It is written as veniska, with the possessive pronoun in a feminine form. This would be referring to the meal offering, the mincha, which is a feminine noun. Accordingly, this means libation of the meal offering, and it is referring to the oil that is in the middle of the meal offering. And we read it as venisko, with a possessive pronoun in the masculine form. This would be referring to the lamb offering itself, a keves, which is a masculine noun. Accordingly, this means the libation of the lamb offering, which is relevant to the wine libation that accompanies the lamb offering. How can this be explained? It teaches that the libation of the meal offering, i.e. its oil, is like the libation of the lamb of wine. Just as the quantity of wine used is a quarter hin, so too the quantity of oil used is a quarter hin and no more. The Gemara cites a related discussion. A guilt offering brought by a leper as part of his purification process is distinct from other guilt offerings in that there is an additional requirement that must be brought together with a meal offering and a wine libation. Rabbi Yochanan says, in the case of a guilt offering of a leper that one slaughtered not for its own sake, although the leper can therefore no longer fulfill his obligation with it, the offering continues to be regarded as a guilt offering of a leper and still requires libations, i.e. a meal offering and wine libation. As if you do not say this, you have disqualified it. To bring it without libations would have to regard it as a standard guilt offering. But halacha is that an offering may not be sacrificed for a different purpose than one for which it was originally consecrated. Rav Menachot ben Gada, a sage from the fourth generation of Babylonian Amoraim, Rav Menachot ben Gada is mainly known as the one who preserved the statements of Rav Huna and Rav Chisda, but he is also mentioned in halachic discussions with Abaye. Very few of his statements are recorded in the Talmud. Objects to this. If that is so, then whenever an offering is consecrated for a specific purpose that requires various additional conditions to be fulfilled beyond those normally required for that type of offering, then even if it is then slaughtered not for its own sake, those conditions must still be fulfilled in order for the offering to be valid. And then with regard to the lamb offering that comes with the Omer meal offering, the halacha should likewise be that if one slaughtered it not for its own sake, the flour in its meal offering should still be doubled in quantity, as normally required for the Omer meal offering, because it continues to be regarded as an Omer meal offering. As if you do not say this, you have disqualified it. And similarly with regard to the daily meal of morning offering, if one slaughtered it not for its own sake, it should still require the arrangement of 2 logs of wood, shnei gezirin. The requirement to have these 2 logs is derived from the verse, and the fire upon the altar shall be kept burning by it, and shall not go out, and the priest shall kindle wood on it every morning. Leviticus 6:5. This clause, second clause in the verse, indicates, in addition to the mitzvah to actually keep the fire on the altar burning, there is also a requirement to add wood to the fire each morning. This is also indicated by the verse, and the sons of Aaron the priest shall put fire upon the altar and lay wood in order upon the fire. Leviticus 1:7. Sages derive that 2 logs must be added to the large arrangement every day. And there's a picture here if you have the Gemara on page 265. Arrangement of the altar, you have the large arrangement, the arrangement of the incense, the arrangement of the perpetual fire, number 3, if I can see that over here, and the ash mound, number 4. Of the wood on the fire on the altar by one priest, and continues to be regarded as a daily morning offering. As if you do not say this, you are disqualified. And similarly with regard to the daily afternoon offering, if one slaughtered it not for its own sake, it should still require the arrangement of 2 logs of wood on the fire on the altar by 2 priests, because it continues to be regarded as a daily afternoon offering. As if you do not say this, you have disqualified it. The fact that Rabbi Yochanan did not mention these halachas suggests that he holds they are not correct, but then his opinion is logically inconsistent. The Gemara deflects the objection. Yes, it's indeed so that Rabbi Yochanan's ruling should be extended to other cases, as Rav Menachot ben Gada claimed. Rabbi said Rabbi Yochanan mentioned just one of them as an example, even though they are all correct. Rabbi Abba said, most early commentators explain that Rabbi Abba disagreed with Rabbi and holds that Rabbi Yochanan mentions only a single case of the guilt offering of a leper because he applies his principle to that specific case alone and not to the other cases mentioned by Rav Menachot bar Gada. Remember, some of the later commentaries suggest that Rabbi Abba actually agreed with Abai that the principle applies to the other cases as well. The sole distinction between Abai and Rabba is how they explain why Rabbi Yochanan mentions only a single case of the guilt offering of a leper. Abai claims that Rabbi Yochanan wished to provide just a single example and made an arbitrary choice, whereas Rabbi Abba explains that in that case there is a specific rationale that explains why it applied, and that's in the first emes of Chazon Ish. There is a different resolution. Actually, Rabbi Yochanan's ruling is limited to a guilt offering of a leper. The other offerings that Rav Menachot bar Gada mentioned would be valid even if the additional conditions that originally applied to them were not fulfilled. The reason for this is as follows. Granted, these other offerings that Rav Menachot bar Gada mentioned would be valid as they are burnt offerings. So that ends the Omid. We'll just do a quick conclusion. In conclusion, David, the masterclass in the newest halachic principle of sacrificial law, we learn the importance of intent and the specific requirements of each offering. The key takeaway is that the principle that a sacrifice, even if it is valid for its owner, can still retain its own sacrificial status, requiring its accompanying components. As mentioned at the end of the chapter, reminds the true value of any offering, whether great or small, lies in the heartfelt intention of what it brings in. So as we close our daf for today, I look forward to delving into the next page with you. May your learning be a source of blessing, and may there be peace in Israel very soon. Amen. Bye.